Beverly Hills, 1967. A charity gala for children's hospitals. The ballroom glittered with Hollywood royalty. Tuxedos, evening gowns, champagne flutes catching the light. The kind of event where everyone came to be seen, to network, to belong. And in the center of it all, holding court like a king, Muhammad Ali. 6'3", 216 pounds of charisma and confidence. The heavyweight champion of the world, fresh off his victory over Ernie Terrell, moving through the crowd like electricity through water. Every joke landed, every handshake felt meaningful, every eye in the room tracked his movements. He was the greatest, and he knew it. But in the corner, near the back wall, sat someone who wasn't watching Ali at all. Bruce Lee, smaller, quieter, 5'7", 135 pounds, dressed in a simple black suit that fit him like a second skin. His eyes were closed, not meditating, not sleeping, just still. While the room buzzed around him, Bruce existed in a different frequency, present but elsewhere, listening but not hearing the noise, aware of everything while appearing to notice nothing. This is where legends collide. Not in rings, not on screens, but in moments of absolute contrast. When the loudest voice in the world meets the deepest silence, someone must have told Ali about the man in the corner. That's Bruce Lee, the martial arts guy, teaches movie stars how to fight. Ali's curiosity was legendary. He wasn't the type to let mysteries sit unanswered, so he walked over, drink in hand, smile on his face, trailed by a small entourage expecting entertainment. "Hey, little man." Bruce opened his eyes, slowly, the way a predator acknowledges movement without alarm. "I know who you are," Ali continued. "They say you're the fastest man alive." Bruce stood, not quickly, not theatrically, just stood. And suddenly the height difference didn't matter at all. Ali leaned in, smile widening. "So let me ask you something, hypothetically. You and me, a real fight. Could you beat me?" The room didn't go quiet. No one else was paying attention. But in the space between these two men, silence became absolute. Bruce looked at him. Really looked, not at his size, not at his fame, not at the spectacle. He looked at Ali the way a master carpenter examines wood, seeing the grain, the weak points, the way force would travel through it. And then Bruce said something that would haunt Ali for the rest of his life. "Could I beat you?" "That's the wrong question." Ali blinked. He'd expected bravado, expected either worship or challenge. This was neither. Bruce continued, voice low, measured, like he was explaining something obvious to a child. "You're asking about outcome. I'm interested in process. You want to know who wins. I want to know how one fights." He paused, let the words settle. "You are 6'3". I am 5'7". You weigh 216 pounds. I weigh 135. You have reach. You have power. You have the conditioning of a champion. These are facts." Ali nodded slowly, unsure where this was going. "But facts don't fight. Men fight. And men bring more than body to battle. They bring ego. They bring expectation. They bring the weight of everything they believe about themselves." Bruce stepped closer, close enough that the size difference became irrelevant. "You asked if I could beat you. Here's my answer. I would never try to beat you." Ali frowned. "You'd quit?" "No. I'd become water." "Water?" Ali repeated, genuinely confused now. "You are a hurricane, Ali. Force, speed, power, overwhelming pressure. You drown men in your charisma before you ever touch them. I've watched you. You don't just beat opponents, you make them believe they're already beaten." Ali's smile faded. This wasn't flattery. This was surgery. "But what happens when water meets force?" Bruce asked. "It doesn't resist. It flows. Around. Through. It finds the gaps you didn't know existed. You can't punch water. You can't intimidate it. You can't make it believe anything about itself because it has no self. It just is. He paused, long enough for the philosophy to breathe. So, if you asked me to fight you, I wouldn't fight you. I would fight the space around you, the rhythm you depend on, the patterns you trust. I would take away the very air that makes you Ali. Not through strength, through understanding. Ali stared at him. For the first time that evening, maybe for the first time in years, Muhammad Ali had nothing to say. Bruce continued, softer now, almost kind. You asked if I could beat you. The truth is this, I couldn't. Not the way you think of winning, but I wouldn't have to. Because if I moved like water, you'd eventually beat yourself trying to hit something that was never really there. 10 minutes of silence followed. Ali stood there, drink forgotten in his hand, looking at this small, quiet man who'd just dismantled the entire philosophy of combat he'd built his life on. Not with disrespect, not with arrogance, with truth. They spoke for hours that night, about discipline, about fear, about what it means to truly master something versus simply being good at it. Ali told Bruce about his burden, the weight of being the greatest, of having to prove it again and again, of never being allowed to be vulnerable, to be uncertain, to be anything other than invincible. Bruce told Ali about his own demons, the Hollywood racism that kept casting him as sidekicks, the martial arts community that dismissed his innovations as heresy, the constant battle between who he was and who the world wanted him to be. Two fighters, two philosophies, two men trapped in the mythology others had built around them. But in that conversation, they found something rare. Recognition. Ali saw in Bruce a different kind of greatness, one that didn't need validation, didn't need crowds, didn't need to announce itself. A greatness built in silence, refined in stillness, expressed through precision rather than spectacle. Bruce saw in Ali the courage he himself lacked, to be loud, to be flawed, to claim space in a world designed to diminish him. Ali's confidence wasn't arrogance, it was armor, and it was beautiful. They stayed in touch after that night, not often, not publicly, but when Ali trained for major fights, he'd sometimes call, ask questions, not about technique. Ali's technique was Ali's alone, but about the mental game, about how to stay present when the world wants you everywhere at once. And Bruce would answer, simply, directly, be water. Neither man ever spoke publicly about that conversation. Ali wouldn't have wanted people to think he doubted himself. Bruce wouldn't have wanted to claim victory where none existed. But those who knew them both, trainers, sparring partners, close friends, they noticed something shift. After 1967, Ali's footwork became lighter, his rhythm more unpredictable. He started moving between speeds in ways that confused opponents. Not just fast, fast then slow, present then absent, flowing. And Bruce started teaching something different to his students, not just techniques, not just forms, but the philosophy behind combat. The understanding that true mastery isn't about defeating opponents. It's about understanding them so completely that conflict becomes unnecessary. Years later, after Bruce's death in 1973, Ali was asked about him in an interview. Could he have beaten you? The reporter asked, grinning, expecting a joke. Ali didn't smile. I don't know, he said quietly. And I'm glad I never had to find out. There's a photograph from that night in 1967. You can find it if you look. Bruce and Ali standing side by side, Ali towering over him, both smiling. But if you look closely, really look, you'll notice something. Ali is looking at the camera. Bruce is looking at something beyond it. That difference. That's the whole story. Ali saw the world as a stage. Bruce saw it as a dojo. Allie fought to be remembered. Bruce fought to understand. Neither was better. Neither was worse. They were simply different expressions of the same truth. That greatness doesn't come from defeating others. It comes from mastering yourself. Allie learned that from Bruce, and Bruce learned from Allie that sometimes being loud is its own kind of wisdom. They were both right. They were both wrong. They were both exactly what the world needed them to be.